All right, so moving on to the major underworld figures that you've written about then. Let's start with Charles Bronson.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about with him?
It was Charles Bronson when I first met him. He's Charles Salvador now. It's 20 years ago.
I've got a Bronson video up recently. Americans are asking me, is this the US actor?
No.
Let's explain who he is.
Yeah, he was Michael Peterson when he was first given his jail sentence. He's not a prolific criminal. He's not somebody who's gone out on the street and carried out 30 robberies or 20 murders. He's essentially someone who is just a man of immense physical strength. You know,
he was only doing 6 months or so crazy, though, wasn't he?
He carried out a very small robbery, which he got a sentence for. But sadly, because of his behaviour in jail, he became the most notorious prisoner in prison. His feat of strength is akin to somebody like Frank Mitchell, who obviously died in the 60s. Somebody who could probably pick up you and I, with his hands and lift us above his head. He's got that kind of sheer strength. But he just became notorious for somebody who liked to row in prison and, assaulting prison officers.
I'd say the guards on.
Taking inmates hostage. He took a load of Iraqi hostages, once Iraqi terrorists hostage in a cell once, and got them to tickle his feet with a feather.
I think that's hilarious myself.
He's that, his stories are synonymous. But what he did in jail, of course, is he changed his name from Michael Peterson then to Charles Bronson, after the well-known American actor. But when he was in prison, he started to find a little bit of therapy from art. So he started off by, drawing, little pictures of himself and the predicaments that he'd been in.
Yeah.
And that's just really, that's really blossomed in prison. So despite all these, all the issues that he's had, he started to draw art. My first connection with him was really through Joe Pyle Sr. in London. Joe rang me up one day and said that Charlie was a good friend of his. Could I make an inquiry with his manager at the time, Steve Richards? Charlie'd fell out with him. He said that Steve Richards had a lot of the stuff that belonged to him, a lot of his personal belongings, etc., in a house in Gateshead, which is where I was living at the time. And would I be able to get it back for him? And that's how the relationship started. So then Charlie would write to me after I'd managed to get the stuff. Steve Richards was fine. He realised that the end of the road had come as far as managing Charlie was concerned, and he was fine with me. Gave me the boxes of stuff back, and then I got that down to London to Joe Pyle. So that was it. And so the friendship started there. Charlie then asked me to look after him, to manage him after doing that kind of gig for him. I had no experience at looking after somebody who was institutionalised other than the merchandise kind of thing that I'd done with the craze. So I said, yeah, I'll give it a go. I set up a website for him. I, started creating, various things for him, calendars and T-shirts, etc. But sadly, somebody who had it in for me, a lot of jealousy goes on in this world, had basically stirred a little bit of trouble up with, for me with Charlie, and we fell out. He needed me more than I needed him, so it was no skin off my nose. I gave Joe Pyle the stuff back, and that was it. We moved on. But over the years, I've had the odd Christmas card, I've had the odd letter. We kept in touch, and moving forward with me doing books, it just became a natural progression to say to him, look, if you ever want anything done, I'll help you out. And that's where Rod Harrison came in. Rod's been looking after Charlie's affairs for the last few years. I built up a good relationship with Rod. And, when it came to actually doing a new book, me, Rod Harrison, and Neil Jackson sat down and did a book called Art Attack with Charlie. And, we just did a limited edition book, really nice quality. And, it did really well. The book sold out. So, yeah, we'll keep up the relationship. But for 20 years, I'd never actually met him. I'd spoken to him on the phone, but never met him. So 2019, last year, I finally travelled down to prison to actually meet the guy who I've had dealings with for 20 years, which is a bit bizarre when you're working with somebody and then going down to meet him. So
you made sure he was all right with you, like.
Yeah. It's funny because I walked in and he's in Woodhill in Milton Keynes. I've been in a lot of jails visiting the Sayers and the Crays over the years and other people, but to actually go into Woodhill was quite different because obviously he's in the CSC, so you're basically walking through the heart of the prison, which I'd never done before. I've walked across prison yards, but not to the point of actually walking through the entire prison and seeing inmates out on their, out doing whatever they're doing. That's and recreation.
You don't usually see that side.
It's absolutely mad. And then you're walking towards the CSC, and the CSC is literally four big containers, for want of a better word, literally on top of each other. And like, it's a bleak place, and you're walking through more security gates, and then you just hear Charlie shouting out the window, hey, how are you? And all that, And so then you walk in, and there's maybe another one of the lads up there on that side who can see you shouting down to Rod. And then we walk in, and we're in a room, pretty much the size of this, 3 chairs on one side and him on the other, and that's it, and he just gave us a big hug when we walked in. He asked us how Steve Richards was doing, which was his first question. But that was it, we hit it off straight away. He's the same size as me height wise, so we're on a level. But we had a good chat. The visit flew over. We had a good chat about different things that that had happened in the past. And he was asking a lot about Freddie Foreman, who obviously I'm a good friend of and go down to see once a month. And he was asking us about various projects I was doing, just really interested. But the key thing for me was that he's changed a lot. He has mellowed. He's 65 now.
I was going to say, he's still immensely strong, though.
Yeah, I mean, I went down to see him last month, another visit. Visits coming thick and fast now. I was speaking to him on the phone the other day. But he as soon as he went in, we were talking about fitness, and he went straight down on the floor and started doing these sit-ups. He banged out 50 sit-ups in the space of about a minute, just different ones. This is what you want to do, and this is how you want to do it. And, he's talking to the people on the visit, and this is how you keep in trim, and we're never going to have 6 packs, but you want to have one big pack. And
I've always sort of 2 people I'd never want to bump into in one night, and he's one of them, and Chopper Reed's the other one.
I think with Charlie, I just think it's going to be so difficult for him, because the next step, of course, is to get off the unit. He needs to get off the unit to progress. Once he gets off the unit, he then has to go in and mix in, prison population with other people.
Now, though,
that's going to be the hard part. I mean, I've listened to Medvic Dark and listened to a couple of his podcasts recently, and he talked about being on the unit and coming back in. You become institutionalized, and it is going to be difficult. And he is asking questions. Charlie's asking about what it's like, etc. But listen, he's got as good a chance as any. It's just how the prison authorities, allow him to progress. He's got to be given the opportunity, but, I think it'll be a couple of years yet before he gets that opportunity to move down. But he's certainly sticking in now and putting the best effort in to try and get to that.
He's probably the most well-known prison person you'd never know, isn't he? I mean, from up and down the country.
The media needed somebody once Reggie Cray died, because, the media rely heavily on having a celebrity criminal locked up. The media rely on it. So the Crays were forever in the paper. They're still now forever in the paper, forever referenced on dramas, soap operas, documentaries. Prime ministers use them as an example for people, we don't want the criminals of today being like the Crays of yesteryear. So the Crays are constantly referenced. And Bronson, as he was, and now Salvador is exactly the same. He's somebody that the media can constantly use. I mean, Rod has this constant battle of putting something onto a social media page and it being completely misconstrued in the media about Charlie. Something which should be a huge positive becomes a huge negative for Charlie. And that doesn't help him, because being in the papers for various reasons, ultimately counts against you when it comes to being, moved off the unit. Or
he wants to see positive things around him, doesn't he? And if he's going to get negative, he's going to think negative, isn't he? But
for the last few years, Rod's definitely done that. He's got him in the right place. He's got him involved with the right kind of schemes. He's trash knives, not lives. Campaign is admirable. A lot of people are doing that and supporting Charlie. So, Stephen Sayers has done it. Paul Ferris has supported him. So there's many of the former villains of a bigger stature have supported Charlie with a campaign. And, as long as he's got his artwork as well, he'll always progress. I mean, his artwork changes hands for big money, £1,500 to £3,000. Some of the artwork's passed for, and that just shows you, because Rod keeps it tight. It doesn't just go out to everybody. It's very, very special. And, my 9-year-old daughter has been looking at his artwork recently, and, the attention to detail that she sees in it, she's been amazed by it. So art affects everybody. In different
even
ways.
in this movie, it shows him doing the artwork, doesn't he? He does hold his teacher hostage as well, but
yeah, just luckily he hasn't been involved in those kind of situations, and I dare say that there's been situations over the last few years where his buttons have been pushed and where he probably would have reacted differently a few years ago. But now, touch wood and pray to God, he does get that opportunity to progress out of the unit at least and back onto a wing, and then hopefully progresses through the progresses through the prison system.
I
like
hope he
everybody
doesn't
else.
die in it. I hope he gets out.
Yeah. I think he will get out. That's my honest gut feeling. I do think he'll get out. When he gets out, I'm not sure. I think he's got a target in his mind, but let's see. He's 65 now, and he should be a free man.
Does he tell you any funny stories from his recent years that you can share with us?
He's always got funny stories. I mean, I'm not going to name names, but there's one or two people who were on his visit list who he often says to us, I can't understand why you would have somebody like that come in and see. He says, well, I'll let those people come in because it makes me feel sane, So it's, but he's his life's one funny story really. In a lot of ways, it's an interesting story, but he just, he plays Scrabble, you wouldn't imagine him sitting playing Scrabble in jail, but he has like Scrabble competitions with people inside, and he's just got he's got a really nice personality. He's a genuine guy when you get to meet him, and I think that's the difference between the monster that sometimes gets portrayed in the press. And I was so sorry for him when, he met Paula, because Paula was a lovely woman. Paula Williamson, obviously somebody who, had a degree of success in acting, and, she married him, and it was always going to be, looked upon by certain people that, she was just somebody in it for the fame, and somebody who was marrying a long-term prisoner for, just for the celebrity headlines for herself. But she was a genuine person, and for her to go the way that she did because of, predominantly really because of online trolls. It was such a sad thing to see, and sad for Charlie really, because he had a good one there. He had a really nice woman, and I think it's a travesty that he hasn't been allowed to have his wedding photographs. They wouldn't allow Paula to have them. He then put a request in, obviously, for those photographs to be buried with her, and sadly the prison authorities wouldn't allow that either. So it's.
I think they could have met him halfway there, couldn't they? You know what I mean?
It's these kind of things which are done to provoke people like Charlie, though, and it's up to you how you handle it. And I suppose if you fly off the handle, then you rise into what they want you to do, and ultimately you're back to square one. You're not going to be released, and the prison authorities can turn around and say, well, told you so. He hasn't changed. So I think more credit to him for not rising to it and just allowing it to happen, and just knuckle down and try and get through your time. He's coming into 45 years this year.
Wow.
With the exception of that brief period when he was out, 45 years in jail, and over 30 years of that in solitary confinement. I mean, a lot of the time behind actually a cage within a cell. It's he's done well to keep his sanity, really.
Done well not to do himself in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you worked on Charlie's book, Heart Attack.
Art Attack.
Art Attack.
Art Attack, that's the accent. Yeah, A-R-T.
What period of his life was that?
He just wanted to do a book basically about, art and, just covering the various people who he'd met through his period in prison. It was just, he's done similar books, but this one was just it was a bigger version and a nice collectible version, and...
Wasn't there a show called that?
Sorry?
Wasn't there a show called that?
Might have been, on ITV, a kids program. I think. Yeah. But it's got nothing to do with a kids program. But it's just a nice collectible book. I mean, we've done a lot of books, Neil Jackson and I, on the Craze and Freddie Foreman in a similar format where we've just done limited edition books. We find that the smaller print runs, and maybe he's doing 300 copies and getting them signed by the people who we do them with can actually work better for us and them. We can charge a slightly higher price.
For the signatures,
but it's the signatures in it as well, and because it's collectible, and we get hit on numerous occasions. We did a book called the Craze from the Cradle to the Grave with a guy called Wayne Lear. The Craze and Freddie Foreman read all about it, where we put newspaper clippings in.
Yeah.
Neil does a lot of the hard work. Me and Wayne Lear have got some big collections. Neil does the hard work editing the book, putting it together and placing it out, and then we send it off to our publishers and get printers and get them done. So, but we've hit a nice little niche. People like them.